tell, do you see the road? I'm out to my soul into the size whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If BEN10 Meets the Boys? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of fan62 on fanfictionnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Niagara Falls. Max Tennyson fired the null void projector, opening a hole to the dimensional prison, sing both Kevin and Vilgax. No. Vilgax cried in anger. I will not be denied my victory. He spoke as both held their ground, with Kevin digging both his feet and all his arms. Grandpa, they're not going in. Gwen said in alarm as Vilgax. Can't you give this thing more power? She asked. I'm trying. The elder Tennyson replied, while tinkering with device to do just that. I got this, Grandpa. Diamondhead spoke, running past the two to charge at his two rivals. Neither caring about the danger or aware of it. Ben, no. It's too dangerous. Grandpa Max cried out in worry. So is letting them stay here. Ben replied, before jumping up and thrusting his fist on the ground. This action caused a wave of crystal to rise from the ground towards the two. No. Kevin roared before shooting a fireball and multiple crystal shards at the omnitrix wielder. Ben rose his left arm and used it to block the fire with minimal difficulty. The shards he avoided, but several of them hit the projector, causing some sort of electric shock that extended to the portal. Meanwhile, the crystal wave knocked both assailants off the ground and into the portal, which thanks to Kevin expanded and began to change. The suction was now powerful that it was pulling Ben, despite being far enough away. Ben, the portal's unstable, it's only a matter of time before it collapses. The retired plumber explained. Move, doofus. Gwen called out. Trying to. The crystal-like alien gritted as he tried to back away. But the portal's suction became even more powerful and now he was lifted off the ground. He was just a short distance away before he grabbed one of the pillars from his earlier attack to stop himself from being sucked in. Ben! The other two Tennysons cried out in alarm. As Diamondhead began trying to pull himself further away from the portal, his leg was grabbed. He looked and saw Vilgax, who was part way out of the portal. We're not done. Vilgax told him as he used Diamondhead as his personal rope and began pulling himself out. Ben looked at the alien, then at his family with worry. He tried to transform, but for some reason he didn't have that control anymore. The shock must have messed that up, just his luck. He couldn't let Vilgax stay, who knows what he would do. So there was just one option he could think of. Congratulations, dweeb. Ben started to speak. You're getting my bunk. He continued before loosening his grip. Grandpa, what's he talking about? Gwen asked in worry. Max's eyes widened. Ben. No. Don't do it. He cried out. Let's finish this, Vilgax. Diamondhead said, and just as he let go added. Together. They were then sucked into what they thought would be the null void. Little did they know that was not the case. Once they crossed, the portal closed. Both the remaining Tennysons stood with their mouths agape. Ben was gone. With the null void projector broken, it would take days, maybe even weeks to fix. If Ben went to the null void. In another dimension, upstate New York. It was just another ordinary day as a man was driving towards the city in his Chevy Cruze. The road was clear, as it was a lesser-used one, both sides had trees. Occasionally a white-tailed deer would appear before scurrying back into the safety of the woods. Until some distance away a yellow hole in the sky opened up. The man didn't notice at first, but when he did he stopped and took out his phone to take a video, in order to get proof that he wasn't just imagining it. Soon enough a figure fell out and loud crash was heard as it made impact with the ground. Soon after the opening closed. "Holy F!" the man uttered, before getting in his car again and driving as far away and as fast as possible. Soon enough he was dialing 911 and said, some FSHT crashed. "I'm sorry sir, who was in a crash?" the operator asked, as she had difficulty hearing him with his panicked breathing. "In sky. Someone or something just crashed from the sky, made a big explosion and I don't know what the F happened." He elaborated, without sounding too crazy. "Can you tell us where sir?" the woman requested, believing something serious was afoot. She quickly took down the information, such as location and the man's name. Unfortunately, because of the distance, authorities would take a little while to arrive. At the crash site, the form of Diamond Head was in the middle of a crater groaning when the omnitrix timed out and in a flash of red became Ben. "That smarts," the 10-year-old groaned, while rubbing his head. He wasn't in too much pain, but his body was aching from fighting Vilgax and Kevin. Ben then looked at the watch and saw it was red, indicating it needed to recharge. "Well, looks like I'm back to the basics," he complained. Apparently the recently unlocked MSTR control was either temporary or traveling through the portal somehow messed it up. Seeing as how he wasn't in the null void, Ben assumed he could call Grandpa or Gwen. So taking out Gwen's emergency phone that he borrowed to play a game and forgot to put back, he dialed Grandpa Max's number. However, for some reason that number was not in service. Weird. Next he tried his home number, but got a Chinese restaurant in Los Angeles instead. He tried his parents' personal phone numbers but got the customer service line for something called Instagram and a Samaritan's Embrace receptionist. This was getting weirder. He finally dialed Aunt Vera from the desert retirement home in a last-ditch effort. "Aunt Vera?" he asked when the line was picked up. "Jeff what? That sounds made up," he told to the person he called. Later Jeff Bozo hangs up. As Ben was about to leave the crater and go figure out where he was, he heard the sound of whooshing twice. Looking around he saw nobody, but then he heard, "For F's sakes, you know I hate that," from an angry woman. It was coming from outside the crater. Without knowing if they were friend or foe, he crept carefully up the crater. "Look, let's just get this SHT over with. I gotta do a shoot for my new A trainers in like an hour. And I'm doing it with fine girl and she got a great peach," a man commented. Thanks to the crater and Ruble, Ben was able to see they were. One was a dark-skinned man wearing a white and blue uniform with goggles. Another was a woman dressed like some Amazonian warrior/gladiator. The last was a person completely decked out in black from head to toe with Kevlar and knives. "Let me guess," the woman continued. "You wanna spend all of 2 seconds F. You can spare 5 minutes. With these hands," the man says, holding up a few fingers. "A few seconds is all I need," he stated with complete confidence that it borders arrogance. "Who are these guys?" Ben muttered to himself, but that was a mistake. Just as quickly as he uttered those words in a hushed whisper, the man in black glanced towards his direction. The young hero ducked down and just in time as a knife was thrown at the rubble he was using for cover. "Back with." The individuals, the two speaking, stared at the knife thrower with confused expressions. "What up, Noir, you see something?" the goggle-wearing man asked, receiving a slow single nod in return. "What is it?" the woman asked, glaring at the crater only to receive a shrug in response. "Train, check it out," she ordered, gesturing to the crater with her head. "Pfft." The man now identified as Train scoffed. "It's probably like some dead bird or whatever. Let's call it a satellite and get this SHT done," he added, with full confidence and slight annoyance. A sound of paper was then heard and the two turned back to Noir and read what the paper said. "Black Noir, Queen Maeve and A-Train investigate crash site and report. It read. Back with Ben. The young hero was fiddling with the watch trying to get any useful alien. So far it was still recharging, only reason he wasn't found was because the people out there were lazy. Apparently a green crystal alien falling from the sky didn't warrant urgency. Come on. Ben begged and his prayer was answered as the omnitrix lit up and the dial rose. Better XLR 8 out of here. He spoke as he selected the alien he wanted and slammed down the dial. The green flash caught the attention of the individuals outside the crater. They walked closer to it with cautious steps, not knowing what to expect. The last thing they expected to pop out was a giant orange dog creature. When it roared they all took a step back in surprise. The F is that? A-Train asked, in total disbelief. Can that SHT even see? Maeve questioned, seeing as it had no eyes, ears or even a nose. Noir merely just pulled out one of his knives discreetly, ready to use it on a moment's notice. The huge mutt let out another large roar, his mouth wide open showing his purple tongue while shooting some saliva. Some of it hit Maeve, who wiped it off in disgust. Gross. She commented. I guess I'll just take care of this, be no sweat. A-Train told them, stretching his arms like one would for a workout. You sure it'll be that easy? Maeve asked, drawing her attention towards an already distracted A-Train. Making Noir the only one who was taking this mission seriously. Be please dash dot. A-Train was about to respond, but at that moment Noir threw his knife. A split second after that the wild mutt jumped at A-Train with both rolling forward, though eventually the alien landed in an upright position. But the soup's abdomen was in between the beast's teeth and was being swung around like a chew toy. Let me the F go. A-Train cried out. Even though he had strength, his position left him being able to do little but wait. Maeve attempted to aid her teammate, but said teammate was flung at her when was close. Both fell to the ground with an bump before the beast started running away. Noir then chased him down and threw more knives. And even though the dog thing lacked sight, it appeared to have eyes in the back of his head as he dodged each and every one of the blades before disappearing into the forest. This bee is going down. A-Train grunted in frustration before zooming after the mutt. He expected to find the large orange quadruped easily, but to his dismay no sign of him. A-Train immediately then began searching the whole forest in a grid-like manner. But after searching multiple times within moments, still no sign. So he kept looking, in the same pattern while stopping once in a while to see if he missed something. This meant that Wild Mutt could predict where he was gonna be. So when A-Train stopped to look for the alien canine, he heard a rustle not too far away. Got you now, he said, as he ran right towards the sound only to be met with a small open area. He looked around in confusion because he was confident something was here. However, he failed to look up until it was too late. By then Wild Mutt jumped out of the tree line and pinned A-Train face down. Just as the beast was roaring, Maeve's shoulder tackled it away, launching some distance. Instead of checking on the mutt to see if it was down, she looked at the fallen A-Train and said, "Is that what you call handling this SHT?" She asked with a smirk, taking satisfaction in his failure. "That piece of SHT is smart." A-Train answered as Queen Maeve helped him up. "Now what?" he asked. "Well, we call Vought, get some pics, our numbers are probably gonna dash." Maeve was cut off as a large log hit them. The wood shattered upon impact and did minimal damage but distracted them from the large body of orange fur that tackled them. The two soups were then forced to the ground as Wild Mutt pushed his paws down on their chests. But despite their position, both were able to slowly push the alien off of them. Nearby Black Noir was silently running towards the beast from behind, getting ready to literally stab him in the back. Wild Mutt was able to see this thanks to his radar/sonar-like senses. So just as Noir jumped at him, he front flipped forward while still holding onto the two soups. He quickly threw Maeve at Noir, then began running into the woods. But not before adjusting his grip, so he had a hold of A-Train's leg and was dragging him, resulting in the speedster hitting multiple trees, bushes, rocks, branches and the earth. Eventually though he could sense the other two catching up. Let hit me hit the hit F hit go. A-Train managed to shout, only pausing when his face hit some force of nature. But Wild Mutt did just that and let hit him go, after tossing him to the side and jumping into the trees again. It seems that neither Maeve or Noir really cared for him, otherwise they would have went to check on him. But they just kept on chasing the alien. Wild Mutt knew he only had a limited amount of time before they caught up with him. If he fought he'd likely lose since it was 3 against 1. If he kept running the Omnitrix will eventually time out, or he'll be caught. He needed to lose them and fast. Luckily he had a chance, he was able to sense in the distance a rock formation. Smiling Wild Mutt double-timed it, and just as Maeve and Noir were within sight he jumped off it. And when the 2 Vought employees got there they saw nothing. The F. Maeve said in both confusion and frustration. Where did that orange SHT go? She asked Noir, who was busy scanning for tracks. Before it was easy to track, due to the beast's size and weight it left impressions on the earth. When it swung on the trees leaves fell, branches were bent and the trunks would have some type of claw mark. Now nothing. There were some small caves-like entrances, but those were only big enough for small children and even smaller animals. No way a large orange dog thing would fit there, plus there were no signs it dug underground. It just vanished. As Maeve and Noir were contemplating their next move, A-Train zoomed next to them. I'm back and pissed off. Where's that son of a b? He spoke. Wait here. Maybe he'll want to use you again as a chew toy. Maeve responded, earning a small, almost inaudible, snort of amusement from the Kevlar soup. You lost it. We didn't lose SHT. Maeve shot back. It was here, then it was gone. She explained. So you lost it. A-Train replied, thinking it was the same thing. Maybe we wouldn't have lost it if you knew what you were doing. Maeve suggested, reminding him of his less than stellar performance in the fight. As the two were getting in each other's face, Noir stepped in. He put himself between the two and wordlessly conveyed that this wasn't the time nor place. They then decided to go back to Vought and report. About 10 minutes after the left, a figure emerged from the small rock caves. After noticing the small caves, Ben changed to his human form and dove in, positioning himself so that anyone on top wouldn't notice him unless they stepped down. The 10-year-old was just fortunate they were looking for something much larger than him and that they didn't think to just jump down. Who were those guys? Ben spoke for the first time since his transformation. However, he didn't dwell on that for long as he started refocusing his efforts on finding his family. Luckily the Omnitrix was charged up and he was aiming for XLR8 again. Maybe I'll try something else, maybe then I'll get what I want. Ben thought aloud, he then slammed the dial on a different alien. Well, at least it's not Ripjaws. Stinkfly commented before flapping his wings. And I'm airborne. He added, allowing himself to focus on the positives of his mistransformation for once. The bug-like alien then took off in the hopeful direction of civilization. Vought Tower. So that's what happened? Homelander asked, for final confirmation. Yes. Maeve answered, with no emotion. You were sent to investigate some satellite crash, but then a big orange dog thing, with no eyes, ears or nose popped out. The caped hero spoke as he began recapping the events. And was able to beat all 3 of you. Then just disappeared without a trace. He finished. Homelander waited for a response but only received silence. The blonde soup then chuckled in amusement, much to everyone's confusion. Gentleman and lady, we've just been given an opportunity. He says. What's our biggest threat? Homelander asks. I mean physical threat, what kind of people do we fight off that can actually hurt us? The other 5 members looked at each other not knowing what to answer. Robbers. Homelander began to list off. Purse snatchers and whatever F pile of SHT they assign us. He adds with annoyance as he looks out the window and out to the city. I mean, sure, that's well and good. He continues with a slight change in attitude. But we need bigger challenges, we need a villain. Because the only thing better than a hero, is a hero beating a villain. He tells them. Like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. The Deep says, contributing for the first time. Exactly like that. Homelander agrees while pointing to the aquatic soup. Earning a proud smile from Deep. And this could be it, or at least more so than usual. What are you saying? Maeve asked. I'm saying we restage the whole thing. Homelander clarifies. Instead of you looking like fools, you look like victims. You want to show the F-world that we can be hurt? Maeve asked. Not just hurt. Homelander responded. But killed even. Why the F would we do that? Translucent voiced. Despite being invisible, that fact didn't apply to his outfit. Wouldn't it make us look weak? It makes us look vulnerable. Maeve reasoned. And like Peace. A-Train added. Homelander gritted his teeth momentarily, but smiled. Look, one way or another this is gonna get out. Something crashed that wasn't a satellite, a drone, or whatever FSHT they like to make up. He spoke as he walked around the conference room. No sort of debris of any kind, a 911 call and cops were on the scene before our guys. Not to mention AF call was made from there, to Jeff F. Bezos. That last part rose a few eyebrows. You didn't know? Homelander observed, genuinely surprised as well. Well, crime analytics informed me that a man called about a crash, but only mentioned a hole in the sky and a green thing shooting out of it. Then apparently said crash site someone called Jeff Bezos' personal phone number. That's bullshit. A-Train says with a laugh. Homelander then looks at the speedster with disdain. So is a giant F-orange chihuahua kicking all three of your ass and just disappearing like smoke? He replied, prompting A-Train to shut up. There's also evidence you were all at the scene along with some orange hair that is unidentifiable with anything on Earth. Homelander continued. Something's gonna get out, so we two options. Option number 1, bury our heads and let some wild story shoot out that we'll need to spin. The caped hero begins to list, then pauses to let them soak in the information. Noir then holds up 2 fingers to indicate what the second option was. So glad you asked, Noir. Option number 2, what I recommend, is that we control the narrative now, before any major story comes out. Do a press conference, say the basics now and then dash. Lay on a pile of alien invasion CRP that raises our points and gives the writers a new movie idea. Maeve finished. Homelander looks unoffended and smiles. Didn't actually think of that last part. Walks back to his seat. Now what do you guys say? With Ben. He was walking the streets of New York City looking for a pay phone, but there weren't any around. Also, people had weird new phones called Androids and iPhones. There was also something called Uber in addition to taxis. The president also changed to some dude that looked like a dude wearing a Cheeto costume with a powdered wig on. On top of all that, there's a ridiculous amount of merchandise from some company called Vought. TV, video games, toys, clothes, costumes, and even people. He bumped into some idiots named Ice Prince and Ice Princess, wearing stupid bright blue costumes by a mall near Times Square. And the girl was wearing so much ice-like makeup she looked like a Killer Frost knockoff. For some reason they gave him an autograph which was tossed aside less than 2 seconds after. He did follow in though to see what these guys were, since this Vought company was a big deal. A few minutes later, at the overcrowded center of the mall, they started doing weird ice power tricks. This got the 10-year-old's attention. Nobody just has ice powers, they don't look like aliens, definitely not robots, so what's going on? They did a few tricks like make snowflakes come down and create snow cones for kids. But then started answering questions like a celebrity couple. After a few minutes Ben scoffed. Sellouts. He thought out loud. What did you say? A middle-aged dude, with a huskier build and an Ice Princess shirt asked. That they're sellouts. He added with anger. Ben then walked away, not wanting to get into a fight. All the while the man kept talking about how great they were. The rest of the mall was pretty barren, save for a few shoppers. As Ben was passing by an electronics store called Best Buy, he saw some guys with guns robbing the place. Looks like these guys are gonna be handful. He spoke before going somewhere to get out sight and dial an alien. 4 handfuls to be precise. He added before selecting 4 arms, however he instead got. Heat blast. Looks himself over. I shouldn't be surprised at this point. Goes into the store and calls out. Freeze dirtbags. All eyes turn on him and subsequently all the guns. Before they can be fired, Heat Blast fired small streams of fire to heat the guns just enough to drop them. Careful, those seem hot. He quipped. Now against the wall. The fire alien ordered the criminals to do and they complied. That was easy. Ben smiled then frowned. Too easy. Goes to the discarded rifles and picks one up, he then takes out the clip and sees it was empty. Same goes for another 2 and the last one was full of RBB bullets and only half full. Turn around. Heat Blast orders and they again comply. What's going on? I know this isn't a real robbery, believe me, I've seen plenty. No response. Okay then. Heat Blast says, then goes to a nervous-looking robber at the end. You better start talking or else. Or else what? He replied, maintaining a tough facade. Ben holds up his palm and creates a ball of fire. Or else I'll start deciding if I want you medium or well done. He threatens, making the man gulp. Here's what I think. Heat Blast starts. I think you guys were paid to rob this place to make some other guys look good. My guess it's the Frosties doing their little cue, unless you guys are that stupid to rob a store when guys like that are in walking distance. He finished. The man blinks and is visibly sweating, but not just because of the heat. I'm getting warm, aren't I? He quipped, knowing he was right. Hands up, FR. A new male voice shouted. Heat Blast turned and saw Ice Prince and Princess with some camera crew behind them. Before we put you on ice. He adds with frost coming out of his hands. Not bad. Heat Blast smirks. Though I would have said, freeze hot head first because well you know. He adds in amusement. The 2 heroes looked at him funny, clearly not expecting that kind of response. Anyway, I gotta go, so can we just skip to the part where I kick your ass and leave? He told them. Do you know who we are? The man asked. We're Ice Prince and Princess and we're here to DLVRY justice. The woman continued. And like you lame t-shirts say, you're gonna DLVRY me to justice cause it's best served cold. Heat Blast states, remembering that's what the shirt said. Instead of being lame dweebs, come put your money where your mouth is and fight. He finished creating fireballs and allowing the robbers to get out of danger. The 2 ice heroes then sent blasts of ice intending to freeze the Pyronite. But Heat Blast 2 separate blasts of fire, immediately overpowering their attack and striking them. This not only sent them flying to the store across but also knocked them out. Everyone was dumbfounded, including Heat Blast. Wow. He says. I'm either that strong or you guys are just that pathetic. Even he couldn't believe he overpowered them so easily. This only lasted a moment because Prince managed to recover enough to fire another ice blast. Normally this would have encased a person in a block of ice, but for Ben it merely put out his flames. Princess then ran up to the alien and began punching with large fists made from ice. Each hit broke on impact, but she merely created more. Eventually Ben recovered and grabbed an ice-clad fist and squeezed. The ice glove melted as well as the gloves she was wearing and her skin started to burn. Ben was then blasted by Prince again. Only once he let go, Princess joined in. Soon enough the flames were gone and Heat Blast was encased in a huge block of ice. That's how we do it. Prince cheered as Princess used her powers to try and cool the burns she was feeling. Suddenly the ice started to melt and the two fired ice again to try and stop. But the heat was too intense and the Pyronite was able to break himself free. The blast sent the two ice-powered heroes to the ground. Now I'm mad, Heat Blast said while lighting up his flames. He was about to attack but then saw the people crowding around the store. If he attacked there was a chance they get caught in the crossfire. So with that thought he laid down his arms. You're not heroes. He spoke to his downed opponents. You're just a scam. He finished before walking away. Prince growled and when Ben's back was turned, he shot an ice blast. But the real hero saw this coming and countered with his own blast of fire. The ice was immediately overpowered and Prince was hit momentarily. Thanks to immunity and healing he only suffered minor burns and the top half of his costume was destroyed. Ice Princess then looked at Heat Blast, slightly scared and he stared back. I don't know who you are, but I know you're disappointing someone in your life you care about. Then walks to the back exit. Scene cut. Once outside Ben looks around and sees he's in an alley, then began flying up. Once he was on top of a roof he looked down at the omnitrix on his chest. Why am I still in hero mode? He wondered, normally he would have timed out by now. He gave the insignia an experimental slap and it started beeping. In a flash of red Ben became human. However when he tried to go hero again he couldn't. It seemed like while he could stay in alien form longer the watch still needed to recharge after a while. What's going on? Ben asked, while looking out to the familiar but totally new city. Scene cut. In an apartment in the city a man was watching CCTV footage of a woman sitting on a park bench. He was eating a Hot Pocket when received a news alert on his cell phone. Fire vs. Ice. Alien beats Vought heroes. At this the man pauses the video and picks up the phone. He begins reading and watching some of the footage from cameras and videos recording on cell phones. His stern expression slowly spreads into a smile as he says, F me. He then turns to the TV and his joyful expression is immediately gone and is replaced with one of anger masking sorrow. Don't worry. The CNT will get what's coming to him. He says to the women, who was in a standing position now, before resuming the video and watching her walk away. New York, Vought Towers. Outside Vought Tower Homelander stood behind a podium, flanked by his teammates. Two of whom had light makeup on to depict the injuries they sustained in battle. In front was a bunch of reporters from different networks. He tapped the microphone to test it before speaking. Yesterday, around this time, this country was invaded and attacked. He started looking out towards the audience. Now this attack was not by a foreign power, or any current terrorist organizations. So far we have counted 2, possibly 3 different individuals that have obtained powers. Powers which up until now have been relegated to Vought heroes. My teammates, Black Noir, Queen Maeve and A-Train investigated a crash reported by a concerned citizen. What they found was a beast unlike any other. We do have video footage but much of it was lost during the action. We also have the incident which occurred at a shopping mall during the event with Ice Prince and Ice Princess. Now we are still gathering information. But we believe this is the first stage of an attack, for what purpose we have yet to find out. Like Pearl Harbor and 9/11 we were caught off guard, but rest assured we at Vought are doing everything we can to find these individuals and stop them. We shall defend our country. No matter what enemy we come against and no matter how much pain they try to inflict upon us. We are your heroes and we will protect you. He finishes, then in a split second reporters begin shouting questions. New York, Upper East Side. In a studio a crew was getting ready for a photo shoot, lights and cameras were being placed. People running around, trying to accomplish their individual missions for their job, knowing they'd be fired if they didn't. One woman however was not like this. She was attractive with black hair in her mid-20s. She had a robe on as individuals were doing her hair, makeup and the nails on one of her hands. The free one was occupied with a cell as the woman checked her social media. Even before the shoot started, people were already filming her. Soon enough they all finished and walked away to get out of her way. Ready? A man with a headset asked, and he received a nod from the woman of the hour. Great, let's go. The man turns around and heads towards the set. But he looks back after he hears a whooshing sound and sees the model was gone. He then screams in horror. Roof. The model looks around, notices she's on top of a building and looks around frightened. She eventually comes face to face some sort of black and blue creature with spheres on its feet, a tail and a helmet. Holy SHT. She screams as she jumps back. Not here to hurt ya. The raptor thing speaks through the closed helmet. The visor opens up to reveal a blue-skinned alien. Names XLR8, like the letters and number, not the word accelerate. He introduces. The woman just has her mouth agape and doesn't respond. Not a talker, that's fine, I know who you are. And frankly don't really care that much. XLR8 says. I just need you to film me on the Instalive thingamajig. He tells her. Wah. The woman replies, looking down at her phone confused. Well, I need to get the word out that aliens like me are not here to cause trouble. He begins to explain. Where I'm from, Facebook doesn't exist, let alone all that other stuff. So I need to find someone with big enough clout to help. He finishes. So you picked me. She replies, pointing to herself. Well, I was trying to find that rock guy, but he's filming a movie somewhere, so. XLR8 tells her. You on the other hand were basically bragging about modeling for a what was it? Taps his chin. Cheese St. Lawrence. He guesses. Yves Saint Laurent. She corrects him. Whatever, doesn't matter. He shrugs. Look, can I have your help? If I say no? She asks. Then I have to go find those singer girls. Ariana Grande and Nicki Minaj. The alien replied. Ariana Grande and Nicki Minaj. She corrected him again, and like before he wasn't fazed. So will you help me? He asked, then when he saw her hesitance added. Please. She finally relented with a okay, then started live streaming. We rolling? He asked, and when she confirmed he cleared his throat. Hi. He greets with an awkward wave. Wow, I really should have written this down. You should see the comments. The woman tells him. Comments? Like what? He asks, totally clueless. Well, some are calling you a freak. She informs. I've heard worse. He shrugs. One person says you should be an extra in the Predator series. She tells him another. Is that a compliment or an insult? XLR8 asks. One wants to know if you're an experiment gone wrong. She lists. Oh, I'm actually an alien. This is just how they look on their planet. He answers. Call me Dash, he starts before moving around quickly in view of the camera. XLR8. He finishes. Like X, L, R, and 8, not the word. Though he didn't see it, multiple people complimented about his speed and his name. One wants to know if I'm being abducted. She tells him. Nah, I don't do that. I just needed someone who could help spread the truth about me. He explains. And that is, the model drags on, though it's unclear if she's asking the question or one of the viewers. Oh right. XLR8 gasps in realization. Right now the red, white and blue homeboy of America is trying to say that the aliens you've seen are invading. For one thing, they're all one person, me. I was Diamond Head when I crashed in Upstate, I was Wild Mutt when his 3 goons attacked me, and I was Heat Blast when I was fighting in that mall. He tells them. I'm also not invading, I was born in America, maybe not this dimension's America but still. I just gained the ability to turn into these heroes. Real heroes, not wannabes who try to make a quick buck. And while these Vought money grabbers are doing tours and signing autographs, I'm gonna be doing the real saving. Not the staged kind that was supposed to happen when I was Heat Blast. Because for me, when lives are on the line, lowers the visor, it's hero time. He finished before running off. Did he just leave me? The model asks, camera still rolling. Actually, I just did that for a dramatic exit. Time to go back. XLR8 speaks before whisking her away. Scene cut. In the same studio set, people were running wild. They had just lost their star and everyone was panicking. Until another whoosh was heard and the model returned. Oh, thank you, Lord. The manager cried out when she returned and they began the shoot. Scene cut. Ben walked out of a store with an apple as its logo. He just bought a new phone and finished setting it up. After the incident at the mall, he needed cash, so he turned into gray matter and invested in stocks. He did have to spend the night in the park with a nice hobo that was in something called AA. But by morning he had a Bank of America account with 6 figures. Then he bought a place in Manhattan. The lady at the desk asked if was pulling a Home Alone, which he never heard of. He then had to pay an extra 10% so she wouldn't call the cops and overlook that he was a kid. As he was scrolling through his phone, he saw a news headline. Kylie Jenner abducted for Instagram. It read, with a picture of the woman. I knew it was something with a K, Ben commented as he kept scrolling. A new headline popped out. Gunpowder shoots down PRSTTN ring. Upon further reading, Ben saw that Gunpowder, a gun advocate soup, busted a massage parlor whose main business was really PRSTTN. Unfortunately, it housed a bunch of Asians who were abducted from their respective countries. Meaning they are going to be deported unless they are granted asylum or have the proper paperwork. Which none will likely get or have. At best they'll sign a deal to incriminate themselves that will buy them some time. Despite only knowing the basics of Vought, he knew there was something else going on. So Ben decided to take a little trip to the most horrific place he's ever known. The library. He was able to walk in just fine, and luckily for him he found an area with nobody in it and a few computers. Granted, it was the kids section, but that wasn't important. What was important is that there were no cameras by the old Dell desktops. Time for a little brain power. He whispered with a smile as he went under the table. A flash occurred and Ben became gray matter. Time to go to work. The Galvan spoke as he began hopping around the computer and after a few minutes was nearly done. Now to leave a Trojan and the program will be done. Hits enter and a completion bar appears and after a few moments reaches 100%. Now for phase 2. Gray matter says before sending an email to a legal clinic specializing in cases like housing court and immigration. Lily Choi, Harvard graduate, immigrant family that's making 7 figures, before that growing up poor. Her reviews. Reads what people have said about her. Stubborn okay, committed nice, and oh, that is some colorful language. She'll do nicely. He finishes before directing the message to Ms. Choi. Now can they handle it? He questions before researching the clinic. 50,000 cap for each case, most go into settlements, only one class action that was won in court. Keeps reading. Oh, limited funding. Let's change that. Begins hacking into bank accounts. Interesting, guess that bozo guy was real after all. Net worth 151.9 billion, he won't miss a few million. And done. Gray matter says with a smile before hopping off the computer. Now to aid Ms. Choi. Scene cut. In a legal clinic, an Asian woman was working tirelessly on a case. A single mother was being forced out of her home after the company her late husband worked at claimed the insurance said she didn't qualify because it was suicide, not an accident. But the fire marshal, detective and inspector confirmed that the fire was caused by improper wiring. Still, she didn't give them any loopholes to use. Hey Lily. Got a minute? A young man called out, rushing out. Busy. She spoke, not even looking up. We just got a big case and it's for you. He continues, before handing her a thick manila folder. It involves gunpowder and that PRSTTN ring. He informs. This piques her interest and she takes the folder and opens it. What's inside it shocks her. It's a mug shot of one of the girls, then lists their name, country of origin and her U.S. citizenship status, which was fully approved. It also states she is in the custody of either the NYPD or ICE under illegal circumstances with no phone calls or legal counsel. A complete infringement of their rights. This goes on for dozens of pages. SHT. She gasps, flipping through it. Nathan, is okay if I take this? She asks, since the last big case she took on the clinic almost got shut down. Right now he's on the phone with the bank making sure that the $20 million that we just got wasn't a joke. He tells her instead, further widening her eyes. Whoever the F sent us this wants you to take it. How do you know? She questions. The fact we just got message that the cases you're working on are requesting a change in attorneys here. He answers, before pulling out more papers. And these. Hands her another fold labeled, for Miss Lily Choi, on it. Lily opens it. Holy. FSHT. She gasps in shock. Inside was a warrant signed by 3 judges and approved by both the governor and senator. After that was a picture of gunpowder from a CCTV camera going inside the massage parlor days before. Next was a note, go get them right away, before Vought does. There's no F way this done legally. She says, knowing that this is too good to be true. Well, it ain't legally legit. He tells her. Lily then gathers all the legal materials and begins walking out. I'll be back later. She simply says. ICE detention facility. Lily walked up to the front desk, going past the lines of relatives and other lawyers, then headed straight to the door housing the IAs. She was immediately stopped by a guard. Ma'am, you can't go in there. A slightly overweight guard told her. Unless you want this entire agency sued, you'll get me your superior, because at the moment you have dozens of my clients in custody who are legal American citizens. Lily told him. Lady, please just go wait in line. The guard tries to order but is cut off when tries to grab her. She slaps his hand. Excuse me, according to code lists off a bunch of numbers. Unless I am making a physically threatening gesture, then you do not have the right to touch me. Now I can charge you for assault. She informs him. Ma'am, please. The guard tries again, his patience wearing thin. Get me your superior. The lawyer tells him. Because in 1 hour I'm going to press charges for wrongful arrest, harassment, incompetence and 20 other crimes which come with arresting kidnapped women and witness tampering legal American citizens. The penalty, which is millions of dollars per plaintiff should the accused and anyone involved afford it. But for guys like you, that's jail and you losing all your benefits. The guard had nothing to say. Get me your superior. The head honcho. The big cheese. Tell him Lily Choi has a class action against both the NYPD and ICE with airtight evidence against the two. She orders. You have 5 minutes. The guard just stands there and she adds. Starting now. And he walks away. Much later, legal clinic. The clinic was empty, save for Lily Choi. It had been a long day for the lawyer. After the guard brought the man in charge, she showed him the folder full of names that she received earlier. Naturally, he was flabbergasted since he checked their green card status and saw they were never even registered for it. He did call her out on the miraculous citizenship and she explained that he could check. Which he did and found that within 12 hours they were all suddenly granted American passports. He did say he was gonna release them in a few days, but she got them a spot in a women's shelter for that night. As well as legal counsel to advise them of their rights and citizenship. After that she headed toward the NYPD precinct and threatened them with wrongful arrest, harassment, forced confessions, and violating civil rights if they did not toss their statements. They called her out on blackmail, but she stated that in a court of law, since none of them got a phone call or lawyer, any confession or testimony was inadmissible. Especially since there was reasonable doubt and probable witness tampering. All charges related to the PRSTTN ring were cleared for them as they were kidnapped and forced into it. Her next step was gunpowder. He knew of the PRSTTN ring and even paid for their services, but only stopped it when cops were close to sniffing it out. However, all the criminals were killed, couldn't talk, or paid off. But bad publicity for gunpowder was bad for Vought, so there was definitely gonna be an attempted payoff. Now she was waiting for that payoff, with only a camera and mysterious new friend as her security. Nervous? A techno-like voice asked in the earpiece behind her hair. You scanning my heart rate or whatever? She asked, while going over the documents. Don't need to. You're about to meet some sleazy corporate slime ball that will do anything to keep their money and power. Plus he's bringing a lawyer too. The voice responded. At that moment a man wearing a suit came in, and he came in alone. Lily Choi. He spoke upon seeing her. Thomas Rand, from Vought. He introduces while holding out his hand. Lily looks behind him and sees no gunpowder. Where's gunpowder? She asks. I've been given power of attorney as he is dealing with important matters at this time. Rand answers. This'll be easy. The voice comments in Lily's earpiece. Now let's begin. Rand says as he sits down and opens his briefcase. Let's start with $5 million per client. She interrupts him. What? He asks in shock. $5 million per client. She says again. Also has to be on the DL. No way Vought is gonna spin this into some charity thing. Gunpowder is also gonna be using RBB bullets as his primary choice, and he's gonna take his donations from Samaritan's Embrace to the shelter those women are staying at. And finally he's gonna move away from his stance on pro-guns and is instead gonna start supporting laws to restrict people's access to them. She finishes. To her surprise the man chuckles. Bold, I like that. But naive, look, the highest I can go is 70,000. He countered. Lily smiles at this. You must think I'm an idiot, because if you think I'm gonna budge there's no way. Take it or I'll announce the court date tomorrow. Bullshit. Rand replies. It's not. You take this to court you'll lose. Rand tells her. You have nothing except the words of women who aren't even citizens and have gone through traumatic events and were involved in the crime itself. Woo. Lily drags on. They really do hire from anywhere. Slides him several documents. He opens them and sees the legal citizenship status of all the women. Then sees that all their confessions they signed have all been tossed. And finally sees CCTV photographs of gunpowder entering the establishment days before the raid. Circumstantial. He plays off. So you tell me. Lily begins. A bunch of testimonies from kidnapped victims and images placing him at the scene of the crime are all fake. Because let me tell you something, if I can bluff a Fortune 500 company into pleading guilty and make them pay back $500 million with nothing but bullshit, then I can put Vought out of business by next week with FSHT like this. You take this to court, we'll cut your funding, bury you in paperwork and delay this for months and appeal for years. Rand threatens. Well, it's a good thing my schedule cleared up and we just got a $20 million donation, all in advance. She tells him. Plus a guarantee that more is coming. I never said I was gonna get you more. The voice tells her. They'll never go for this. Rand says. They don't have to. She replies, then gestures to him. You said it yourself, you were given power of attorney. Meaning you sign that they have to follow it or I can sue them for both things. Now sign or else there will be legal consequences. She threatens, then at that exact moment a green dot appears on the man's tie. He seems to have taken notice of this and looks around frantically. Something wrong? Lily questions with faux ignorance. You'd really kill me? Rand asked, and before he goes any further the door bursts open. Stepping in was Black Noir. He immediately takes out a knife and throws it. While it's in midair, one of the cameras shoots out a laser, destroying the knife. Noir looks at the camera and some sort gooey substance comes out and morphs into a body. It was a mix of white and black with green circuitry lines. On its stomach was a familiar symbol. Not so sharp, are ya? Black Noir didn't speak, instead he took out more knives and threw them at the alien. Upgrade's eye lit up as he fired his optibeam, blowing up the knives. Jesus! Rand cried out as he and Lily ducked down. Noir then began menacingly walking over towards the alien, ready to get up close and personal. Upgrade charged, however, but not at the Vought soup, but to the computers. Once there he placed his hands on two of them. The color scheme immediately morphed into his, and suddenly the cords became tentacles that launched at his opponent. Believing himself to be impervious to the attack, Noir let the tentacles wrap around him. However, he soon had a tough time breaking them, so he stopped and put more strength into it. This allowed Upgrade to morph the screen so that guns popped out which fired lasers at Noir. The impact sent Black Noir crashing into the wall, leaving a huge hole. A few moments of tense silence followed. Since the commotion stopped, Lily and Thomas rose up from their cover and looked at Upgrade and then the smoking hole. The alien turned to Lily and asked, "Your insurance covers this, right?" Before she could reply, Noir's hand shot out of the hole to pull himself in. Immediately Upgrade readied his computer guns and optibeam to fire at a moment's notice. But Noir didn't attack, he just stood there, with his front Kevlar burned off and smoke coming his chest. "Wanna go again?" Ben asks with confidence. Noir replies by pulling out a phone and he began typing. He then flipped it over and it showed Upgrade firing at a walking Black Noir, twisting the narrative. When it's over he points at Thomas, indicating he wants them to sign Vought's deal. Blackmail, really? Upgrade sighs, then his head morphs to one of the security cameras. Then he projects the entirety of the events onto one of the walls. When it was over he says, "That's why I was in the camera, so you couldn't pull one over on me." Noir's reply is silence. "Also, you guys need to remember, there's one weakness you all have that I don't. That includes Homelander." Upgrade speaks, causing Noir to tilt his head in intrigue. "Reputation." Pause. "You all care about it, I don't." He tells him. Just then Noir's phone rang. After 2 rings he answers it and soon points at Upgrade. The alien hero then relaxes a bit and shoots a tentacles to grab the phone and comes face to face with an older blonde woman. She starts talking but no sound comes out. "I can't hear you," he says, and she presses something on her end, but there's still no sound. "Still nothing," Ben comments. The woman appears to swear in frustration as she starts typing things. "Oh wait." Upgrade raises the volume. "My bad, I accidentally muted you on my end." The woman takes a breath. "Hello. I'm Madeline Stillwell, I'm Vice President of Superhuman Affairs at Vought. Here's our new offer." Ben doesn't let her finish, instead he hangs up, drains the battery and tosses back the phone. Noir catches it. "Sign that or we keep fighting. Then cops will come, unless the paparazzi or anyone with a working phone shows up first." Upgrade begins to tell him. "Then they'll want to investigate what happened, then it would look suspicious if on the night Vought goes to meet a famous lawyer she goes missing or disappears. Sure, you can blame me, but Vought is gonna have to be investigated, and if both lawyers goes missing too, that gives them right to search the tower top to bottom." He lays it out. "So sign it, honor it, and leave her alone, and next time we fight it'll be easier for you to spin it against me." He tells him plainly. Noir is quiet for a few moments before he looks at the terrified Rand and nods. The corporate lawyer scrambled to his feet and signs the deal Choi offered. Thankfully it's still in one piece and on the desk. With that Noir walks away casually as Rand sprints. Wow, you really weren't lying when you said you were the best. Lily comments, straightening herself out. Do I look like a liar to you? Upgrade asks, detaching himself from the computer and popping the camera out. Well, you did steal $20 million and hack into US government files. She reminds him. That's true. He admits. You know you're supposed to deny that by saying allegedly. She replies him, not expecting him to openly admit to committing crimes. Well, you're my lawyer, so now it's privileged information. Upgrade counters. Right? He asks, not entirely sure if he just incriminated himself. Vought. Madeline Stillwell tossed the tablet on her desk with a swear. First the incident upstate, then the mall, and now one of Vaught's own heroes had to do a complete 180. Which means less constitutes to support putting soups in the military. Just then Stan Edgar comes in. I take it that something went wrong. He tells her, knowing the answer. We just lost Gunpowder's fan base. Stillwell tells him. And he's pulling from Samaritan's Embrace, and he's gonna be paying even more money than he donated to them. He's also gonna support laws and policies to prevent people from getting guns. The complete opposite of our demographic to get Vought heroes in the armed forces. Edgar adds in. Noir failed. Stillwell tells him plainly. He never fails. Which means we need to take care of this quickly. First of all, it's not a we problem, it's a you problem. Edgar corrects. Second of all, the solution to this is simple. You get Gunpowder a new fan base, one that shows that Vought heroes are politically diverse, but share the same goal. He tells her. Finally. Edgar begins. I want that alien shapeshifter brought in alive. He'll never go for that. Stillwell tells him, referring to Homelander. We need to know how one single individual is obtaining multiple powers that has beat 3 members of the 7 and publicly humiliated 2 other members of Vought. Edgar reasons. This is my company and this is a direct order. This shifter comes in alive, no matter what. I don't care what some spoiled, self-entitled man-child wants. He's America's hero and we are a hero company. Stillwell responds. Edgar chuckles and replies. So you've been working somewhere else this entire time? What? The blonde replies, not understanding. You, just like everyone else here, are under the delusion that we are a superhero company. He begins while gesturing to the building. We are not. What we are in fact is a pharmaceutical company that is disguised as that. Homelander is not our biggest asset, that is the vials of Compound V. So bottom line is, we lose all the heroes, we can make twice as many more. Takes a pause and walks to the window. It wasn't long when Soldier Boy was this country's greatest hero. He resumes, while looking down at the statue. But before that it was Wrench, and unlike Soldier Boy he actually fought. The V he was induced with just enhanced his combat skills, and he served in North Africa, Italy, France, Belgium and Germany in some of heaviest fighting. Why are you telling me this? Stillwell asked, not seeing the point. Because you need to know the harsh truth that Homelander keeps denying. He starts to answer, then turns back. He's replaceable. They all are. Soldier Boy, Wrench, every member of Payback, all were considered either one of the best or the best. Then suddenly nobody cares about them, the 7 is just this generation's flavor of the month. He concludes, before walking out. Alive. He emphasizes before he closes the door shut. Prick. Madeline says before her work phone rings. Hello. So you've heard. Well, you know what to do. She says before hanging up. Next day. On the streets of Manhattan a truck full of money was driving crazy to avoid the cops. However, it wasn't the cops that stopped, it was a red-skinned, armed alien jumping in front of the vehicle, stopping it with his bare hands. The criminals inside then gave up and were waiting to be arrested. However, at that moment Homelander touched down. Four Arms looked and saw the soup with the American flag cape. "Well, well, well. You're trespassing." Homelander calls out. "Well, someone has to be the real hero and it's not you." Four Arms replied. "Who are you?" Homelander asked, giving him a once-over with a face showing he wasn't impressed. "Right now, the name's Four Arms." The Tetraman introduces himself. The blue-eyed soup chuckles at this. "Four Arms." He replies amused. "Better than Home Loser." Four Arms counters. "This is your only warning." Homelander begins. "Turn yourself in or I drag you in." He offers. To his surprise Four Arms bellows out laughing. "Ha ha ha ha, oh ha ha ha." He cries as he uses his two lower arms to clutch his lower abdomen. After about a minute he wipes a tear and replies. "If you think I'm gonna give up to a bunch of jealous greedy wannabes then you're a bigger dweeb than I thought." Homelander smirks, "In that case." Then in a blink of an eye he closes the distance, throws a punch at him. This sends him flying into the truck the criminals used, thankfully nobody was in it. This action caused everyone nearby to stop and look. Homelander then turns to Maeve and smiles arrogantly. "See, wasn't that dash?" Gets cut off when the same truck he punched Four Arms into is thrown at him. It didn't do much, but it did distract him so that Four Arms could run up and deliver a two-armed punch. Mimicking what Homelander did before to him. Homelander got back up from the pavement he crashed into. "Nice shot," he comments as his eyes began to glow red. Ben noticed this and quickly grabbed an empty car to throw. Homelander merely fired his heat vision at the vehicle, but since he hit the gas an explosion happened right in front of him. "Seriously?" he scoffs, brushing off any debris. As Homelander dusted himself off Four Arms, who jumped up when the explosion happened, came down right on top of him, causing the blonde to fall on his back and be pushed into the pavement. "Yeah!" the Tetraman screamed as he soon began delivering multi-armed punches. Before Homelander could stop him, Queen Maeve shoulder tackled the alien off of him from the side. Though due to his size and her having less strength than Homelander she only made him go back by several feet. The Amazon-like warrior then ran at the alien, intending to pay him back for the incident upstate. Four Arms then tried to swing at her with his right arms, but she leaned back to dodge. Then delivered a punch to his exposed side with her left fist. Before he could recover from that Homelander flew straight at him and threw a punch, sending the Tetraman into the side of a building. "Ugh!" Four Arms groaned as he pulled himself out of the brick wall while rubbing his head. "Wish Grandpa and Gwen were here," he spoke to himself as he shook his head to get rid of the ringing. When he regained his footing Ben saw that Homelander and Maeve were both taking their time walking towards him. He also saw Homelander's cape flowing to the side a bit and had an idea. "If that's all you got then you're dumber than your outfits. I mean, who's the idiot who thought having an American flag as cape was a good idea? It's just tacky and lacks imagination." Unbeknownst to Four Arms Homelander's eye twitched. Four Arms starts walking as he talks. "You also basically embody the ideal Nazi. Blonde, blue eyes, with a might makes right mentality. No wonder anyone who knows how to use more than 2 brain cells thinks you're losers." That did it. Homelander flew straight at Four Arms in anger, ready to go straight through him. But to his shock the Tetraman was able to lean to the side and grabbed his cape. The cape was made of an expensive special polymer that was infused to the suit so it wouldn't rip or burn. At least not very easily. So when Four Arms pulled the cape he threw him on the pavement. The alien then kept lifting and throwing Homelander via his cape, like a pioneer trying to close on a rock. This prevented the blonde hero from trying to recover as he kept getting pulled in one direction and thrown down in another place. At some point Four Arms had his back turned from Maeve, which she tried to take advantage of. But when she was close the alien used Homelander as bat to send her to the side of a building. Ben then began spinning Homelander round and round for a bit until he let go with a "you," tossing the caped hero down 2 blocks, skipping the ground like stone on water several times. Miraculously nobody was hit, since just before Homelander arrived an inspector with an accent called in a dangerous potential gas leaks in multiple areas. So the authorities cleared those but were unable to check when Four Arms, Homelander, and Maeve began fighting. Four Arms turned to the hole that Maeve made when she was hit into it. But when he saw her, she was talking into an earpiece instead of fighting. Someone was giving her orders to not to fight. Meanwhile Homelander was fuming as he stood back up. "Go Homelander," he heard. "Get that sunburnt SHT." Another. "You're the SHT." Another. "He's just a PP with little pages." With his eyes glowing red he slowly flew up and then launched himself at Four Arms from an upward angle. The Tetraman stood his ground and waited. Timing it just right, he clapped both sets of hands to make a large boom sound. Not only did all nearby glass shatter, but because of Homelander's hearing it was the equivalent of a person hearing a sonic boom at close range. Grabbing his ears and shutting his eyes in pain, Homelander lost his concentration and his flying became more erratic, which slowed him down but was able to adjust to despite the pain and ringing. Slamming into his torso, Homelander crashed into Four Arms, creating a trench as they went across the pavement. Both self-proclaimed heroes then proceeded to slowly get up. Homelander couldn't hear anything besides a prolonged ringing. Four Arms was breathing heavily and knew he needed to book it before this guy either captured him or worse. But he couldn't just run, and it was too noticeable to just change into human. Then they ran at each other in normal speed, colliding punches, creating a shockwave that pushed them both back some distance. Homelander into an empty street that was cleared and Four Arms near a crowded area of civilians, all with their phones out. Four Arms then saw a truck carrying a large amount of dirt was abandoned nearby. Seeing his chance, he went over, picked it up and waited. Homelander, not caring if civilians got hit, fired his heat vision and Four Arms tossed the truck at the beams. Since the Tetraman adjusted the throw so that the heat vision would hit the gas, it exploded, creating flames near the civilians, though still a safe distance, and a giant cloud mixed with smoke and dirt. The smoke and dirt screen covered where the civilians were and people started running while covering their mouths hoping to not inhale it. During which a red flash appeared and those not blinded by the screen could only make out that Four Arms' form was gone. Homelander, with his hearing nearly better, flew by and tried to look for his enemy. But even with his sight there was no large red, four-armed muscle man. Just panicked ants people. He grits out, having lost his target. Short while later, as Ben walking in the sea of New Yorkers, he felt someone grab his left shoulder. "Don't scream," a man simply says in a British, Australian, New Zealander accent, while guiding Ben in a different direction. The 10-year-old glanced down at his watch to see that it was recharging at red. Planning on shifting to some flying or, well, don't. His possible kidnapper spoke again. "'Cause if you do that, flying CNT is gonna set about clobbering ya." "Who are you?" Ben asked. "The only that wants those SHT heads at Vought to be taken down more than you." The man answers. "Do you have a nickname?" "F off." The man answers, while looking around to make sure nobody was eyeing them. "Later then, Fuffy," Ben told him, swinging his watch arm into the man's pages. This caused him to let out a grunt, giving Ben a chance to run. Since everyone else was leaving quickly, it didn't look as suspicious and Ben was able to quickly blend into the crowd. While he may have gotten away, he was unaware of the tracker. Vought Tower. The 7 were in their meeting room discussing today's events when Stillwell walked in. "What the F was that?" she asked, not even bothering to be polite. "You said you would bring him in." "And we will." Homelander answers with a stern expression. "Today." Stillwell reminds him. "You said you would get that effort today." "I said as soon as possible." Homelander tells her. "Either way you screwed up." Madeline affirms. Then goes to their TV and turns it on. On the screen was Kylie Jenner being interviewed for E! News. At first I was like terrified cause I was basically just kidnapped. Then when talking to him it just seemed like he generally wanted to share his story and that he was here to help. Now did he threaten you or dash? The interviewer asked. No actually. The celebrity answered. He even offered to send me back if I didn't want to. Why do you think he chose you? Was the next question. Cause I'm famous. The model answers simply with a chuckle. I don't think he really knew who I was or my family, just that I had a lot of followers. Laughs. He actually said he wanted The Rock, but I was easier to find. Really? Yeah. He said I said no he would go find Ariana Grande or Nicki Minaj, but didn't know their names. She continues. Oh my. Stillwell then hit mute and glared at Homelander. The Seven just chuckled. So what? He talks to a Kardashian, big whoop. He shrugs off not impressed. She likes him. Stillwell points out. She and her family have a huge fan base, so now he has a huge fan base. Especially since an hour after fighting you, a big bug called Stinkfly saved a window washer. Then after that a little gray frog calling himself Gray Matter snuck in court, and brought a file showing some obscure law that stopped the closing of a community center. So. Homelander questions, not seeing the problem. The window washer was ours and is suing us for endangerment. That community center was being shut down by the city, but we were gonna show up and save it. But now it has 90 more days where they don't even need to pay for bills, which means delays on the Vought brand community center. Madeline clarified. Offer the guy 5 figures to drop it and then just wait the 90 days. Homelander said, seeing the solutions easily. Does your idiot brain get by on stupid? Stillwell asked, and before he can reply the VP continues. The bug told him only settle if we agree to replace the equipment with brand new ones. And we already signed the contract for the construction, but now we have to pay for the extra 90 of nothing which thanks to Harvey Specter we can't get out of. She tells him. It can't cost that much, right? The Deep asks. Being the first of the other members to interject. So glad you asked. Stillwell replied, feeling cheery. Because since capturing him was your responsibility, any damages Vought has to pay for from now on is coming out your paychecks. Starting now. What? Bullshit. F kidding me. Soon erupted, all with upset tones. Moore just shook his head and counted his blessing that it didn't start before his previous mission. Now hold on. Homelander called out and they all turned to him. He then got up and walked around the table. Look, I underestimated him. That's on me and I'm sorry. Pause. And to show how sorry I am, I will personally pay for the damages. You're serious? Stillwell questioned, honestly expecting that. Get it writing if you need. But until we catch him, just take out however many Benjamins, Jacksons and Washingtons you need from me. He assured her. Me too. Deep calls out. Homelander turns to him with a smile. Thanks Deep. Goes back to Madeline. Deep and I will cover the damages. All right. I'll tell the board. Stillwell accepts. But you better fix this quickly. And Edgar wants him alive. So do I. Homelander agrees. Though it was unclear if he was being honest or not. Ben's apartment. Ben walked in with a takeout bag from an establishment called Shake Shack while whistling a tune. Despite nearly getting his ass kicked by Homelander, today had been productive. About an hour after he ditched that heated dude, he saved a window washer as Stinkfly and a community center as Gray Matter. Then after letting the Omnitrix recharge, he went XLR8 and helped people around the city. Now though he was hungry and tired. Evening shifty. A cheerful, but familiar, British voice called out. What the? Ben jumped, throwing his bag in the air and watching it fall and spill on the ground. Aw man. That cost me like $25. He whined, more upset at the waste of food. Sorry about that, mate. Be happy to buy you a new one. The Brit offers with a smile. How'd you find me? Ben asks. Let's just say the initials are G, P, and S. The intruder replies, holding up his phone. Ben then checked himself and found some small tracker in one of his extra pockets. Thanks by the way for landing where you did when you were that sunburnt four-armed piece of shite. He tells him. Wasn't sure you would need an escape, let alone that specific one. He gets up, walks over and holds out a badge. Name's Billy Butcher. FBI. He introduces himself finally. Ben goes to reach for it but he pulls it back. Keep your grubby hands to yourself, mate. Who knows when the last time you washed your hands? Butcher told him. Ben shrugged and introduced himself. Ben Tennyson. Now let's have us a chat, shall we? He requested, then holds out his hand to signal Ben not to touch the watch. Now before you tinker with your fancy timepiece you should know that I know that you haven't been the roadrunner in at least an hour. Points to the dropped food. It took you 17 minutes and 44 seconds to walk here, plus the additional 3 minutes and 57 seconds to walk there from when you stopped being a soup. Let's not forget the wait time, he adds. So you see. Butcher resumes. It's plain as day that you either can only be a soup for a certain amount of time, or when you go back to being your puny self you need to let that cool down before you can turn it back on. The look on Ben's face tells him he's right. You're buying. Ben answers, knowing this guy wasn't gonna stop coming at him. He just needed to keep him busy at least until the omnitrix recharged. Plus who knows what he says might interest him. Shake Shack. At a table Ben and Butcher are waiting for their order. After the 10-year-old agreed to the meeting he made it clear he was only talking if he was getting food. What followed was nearly 35 minutes of awkward silence, except for when they ordered the food. When their device buzzed, signaling the food was ready, they went up. Here you are. 2 burgers, order of fries, extra of our shack sauce, a black and white milkshake and a water. A cheerful employee in her late teens, early 20s, said while placing the food by them. Anything else? Yeah. A less hungry kid to feed. Butcher replied with a phony smile to match her honest one. She giggled politely before telling them to enjoy their food. Eat. Butcher ordered, tossing the food on the table as they sat down. Ben quickly dug in and with a mouthful of burger said. Okay, talk. Come work for me. Butcher told him, not missing a beat. This caused Ben to choke and take a few sips of his milkshake. What? Ever since World War II all soups have been working in Vought. All of them, not one has ever not worked for Vought. Others either never get a moment in the spotlight or get paid not be a soup. Butcher tells him. Except you. He adds. Now I don't 2F of a rat as why. Butcher continues, while leaning forward and crossing his arms on the table. All I care about is that in 3 days you gave half a dozen of those CNTs a good spanking. The kind of spanking people like me can only dream of, but you did it like there was nothing to it. What's a CNT? Ben asked, naively while grabbing some fries. At that moment a mother with one of her children was walking by and her eyes widened before covering her child's ears as she walked away. You'll figure it out. Butcher simply answers then adds. So you in? Why do you want to spank Vought so much? The 10-year-old asked. 'Cause I effin' do, that's why. Butcher simply says, sipping his water. Why do you care? A kid like has to have some sort of squabble, otherwise you wouldn't be so set on ruining their reputation. Not really. Ben tells him instead, wiping some sauce on a napkin. They're just the bad guys. And heroes fights bad guys. He adds. Butcher snorts in amusement. You gotta be jokin', dot. He replies, but then sees that he's telling the truth. He still has that naivety in his eyes of a boy who just wants to do the right thing because it's just simply the right thing to do. When Butcher looked into MM's eyes and mentioned Soldier Boy, he instantly saw a fire for revenge. This kid, nothing. Nope. That's why I want to know why you want Vought. Ben says, while starting his other burger. So who was it? Speedy Train, Transparent, the Man in Black, Home Loser. Butcher's jaw clenched and he made a fist to contain his anger. PSS off, that's who. He answers. First you came to me. Ben points out, gesturing to himself, before holding 2 fingers up. Second you want my help, you have to tell me what he did to you. Because you need me, not the other way around. Butcher looked into the sea of patrons and contemplated. It should an easy choice, but it's not. It was bad enough that it happened, he didn't want to relive it. Homelander did something to someone I care about and Vought made them disappear. Pauses to look back at the kid. For good. He adds. Your family. Ben guessed. And the look Butcher gave told him he was at least close. Do we have a partnership, or not? Butcher slowly asks one last time. 'Cause I already had a plan before you showed up on my doorstep. I don't really need ya. I'm in. Ben agrees, holding out his hand. But when Butcher goes to shake it he pulls back. Just one thing. I see something not right, I will go hero on you. He warns. Of course. Butcher replies, then the two shake on it. Now let's go see a Trojan about a horse. What? Ben asked, finishing the last of his meal. Just come on. Butcher tells him, not bothering to explain. Working with a kid was gonna be an adjustment. The 10-year-old then followed him, but not before running back to get his milkshake. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author AU Fan 62 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video, till then goodbye.